Homework Hotline, what is your emergency?
Hi, and thanks for virtually joining us here at Homework Hotline.
Yeah, call us with your questions. We are ready to help.
Math, science, English, they're all good. So we're usually here every Tuesday and Wednesday from 4:30 to 5:30 p.m. However, today is our last Homework Hotline before spring break. If you do need help over the break, you can look at our videos on our YouTube channel, Denver DPS TV.
Yeah, and today you can call us at the number on the screen, 720-424-1666. And for live broadcasts, you can tune into Comcast Channel 22 or 882, our new high-def station. There's also Prism TV, Channel 8007, or go to livestream.com, click on Discover, and put DPS TV in the search box. We also take advantage of Facebook Live. Find us at EG Homework.
So our high schools sponsor our show, and we want to thank Emily Griffith High School, where Nathan and I teach, and Contemporary Learning Academy, where Sam teaches.
Go Pumas.
So how are everybody's foreign language skills?
That was kind of a little out of the blue there, Nate. Why are you asking?
Because today we have Theresa Pena back. She's the outreach she is in outreach and engagement at DPS Foods, and she's going to show us how to make a delicious and nutritious French toast recipe.
French toast, ooh la la. So we'll see that in about a half an hour. And we also want to talk to our social media master. Derek, tell us about yourself.
Yeah, I'm Derek. I'm an intern here at DPS TV, and like Becca said, I get all the social media questions and I get them to our teachers so we can answer them. But I am also the trivia master. At the beginning of the show, I will give you a trivia question, and at the end, I would like answers from you guys. Today's question is an art history question, and the question is, how long did Leonardo da Vinci take to the lips of, that's not right. How long did Leonardo take to paint the lips of Mona Lisa?
Just the lips, huh?
I don't know. Well, if you do have a guess, or if you know the answer, you can give us a call. The phone number on the top of your screen, it's over there now. I'm so used to just pointing up. It's over there.
See, now you know how hard it is. See how easy this
difficult.
is?
I know. It's floating above your head. I just have to remember that. So that's the phone number, and you can give us a call, and there is a prize involved in this. So if you do answer that correctly, you can win 2 tickets to the symphony of your choice. So also get your questions in for us, because like we said earlier, we're going to be gone for spring break. So get all of those in to us today before the end of the show so that we can help you out. Let's give you our other contact information as well. You can send in questions to us on Facebook or Twitter at EG Homework. You can text your questions to us at 970-680-3771. Or you could email us at homework@emilygriffith.edu. So those are all the different ways that you can get homework help from us. Until then, let's go back to Derek and let's get some of your questions answered.
All right, so our first question is a math question. It says, Eric and Fiona shared the pizza in the ratio 2:3. How many slices of pizza does Fiona get?
Okay, I can take that one. I got a copy of it and put it on my screen, so I think we're good. I'm ready to go with this one. So
Pizza is sliced into a lot of pieces.
it is sliced into a lot of pizza pieces. Actually, let's find out how many pieces there are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So there are 15 slices here. So, all right, let's talk about the ratio, what that means first. So this ratio, the way that we read that is 2 to 3. And then the way that this is written, so it says Eric and Fiona. So Eric's name comes first. So usually ratios are ordered in the way that, the names are written as well, or identified. So we can assume that Eric is the 2 and then Fiona is the 3. Now what this means is that for every 2 pieces that Eric is going to get, Fiona is going to get 3 pieces. So 2 for Eric, Every time he gets 2, Fiona gets 3. So since we have a picture, let's actually do this visually first. I'm going to use, let's see, I'm going to use, does this yellow show up? Kind of. Let's do green and purple. So we're going to say Eric, all of his pieces are going to be green, and we're going to say Fiona, all of her pieces are going to be purple. So this piece is Eric. We're going to shade in 2 for Eric. So every 2 that he gets, Fiona is going to get 3. So I'm going to shade in Fiona's 3. So there's 1, 2, 3. And you might see where this is going, because we said that we had 15 pieces total, and we've used up 5 pieces so far. And we could look and keep going with this. So we got 2 more for Eric. And we're going to have 3 more for Fiona. Oops, wait, no. Fiona. So that's going to be Fiona's. 1, 2, 3. You guys get to watch me color today.
Yeah, you're really getting it in the lines there.
Trying to.
Yeah.
So there's 2 again for Eric, and now 3 again for Fiona. So you can kind of see, I guess, you can kind of see visually what's going on here with these ratios. Now ratios are kind of cool because they're a lot like fractions, but ratios we can look at parts to parts rather than with fractions is always a part and a total. Ratios can also do a part to a total, but they can also do a part to a part, which is nice. Fractions just do parts to totals.
You can also do a lot more pieces, right? Like you can do number of slices to the other person's number of slices to the total.
Right,
like
right,
that.
right. You could have a ratio. Let's say I had another person in here. So Eric, Fiona, and we'll say Nate. We had Eric, Fiona, and Nate. So we could say they share the pizza in the ratio 2 to 3 to 1.
Yeah.
We could say something like that. Whereas
That
a
doesn't
fraction.
seem fair.
Oh well, you know, they like the pizza more. I guess I don't know.
I'm just
Dibs.
more generous, apparently.
You're nicer, I guess. So, but yes, absolutely. Whereas a fraction could not do this, could not compare 3 different, things to each other. So ratios are very interesting that way. But back to answering this question, you can kind of see here now that, so we're asking how many slices does Fiona get? You can see that in this pizza, she's getting 3, 3, 3. So altogether, she's getting 9. You could also set this up as a fraction, and we could say, all right, so Fiona's on the bottom here. Eric's on the top here. We would have to figure out what's going to equal 15 total. And maybe actually what I might even do is this. I might even say, let's do this. I'm going to say Fiona's going to get 3 out of the 5 pieces. So if I highlight this part here, just one of the things, she's getting 3 out of 5. So that's the fraction that Fiona is using. And I could use that as an equivalent fraction and say, well, I've got 15 slices total, so how many is she going to get out of that 15? And you could see that an equivalent fraction to that is 9 out of 15 as well. So there's maybe another way to do it. I chose to go visually just because we had it there, and a lot of times it's nice to see what those ratios look like visually, but there you go. Hopefully that helps.
Yeah, I find ratios to be very useful, right? If you're making a recipe or something, or trying to calculate, splitting a bill, or if you have a business, you can use it to split profits, things like that. It's really helpful.
That's very true. That is very true. All right, well, let's go back to Derek and get some more of your questions answered.
All right, well, we have an English question that is kind of similar to yesterday's, but it is, what is the use of accept versus accept, one with an E and one with an A?
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, this one maybe is a little bit more clear than the example that I looked at yesterday. And that has to do with the fact that each of these words, accept and accept, that is to say accept with an E and accept with an A, have pretty distinct meanings. So the only so yesterday, we talked about the difference between affect with an A and effect with an E. And the really tricky thing about distinguishing between effect with an A and effect with an E is that the meanings are kind of close to each other, and you could be forgiven for easily confusing one or the other, although obviously not forgiven on something like an SAT exam or a test in your English class. In the case of accept and accept, both of those, each of those has, I would almost say they have opposite meanings from each other, and so it's going to be rare that a person is writing, and as long as they understand the difference in meaning between each one, that they're going to be unsure of which to use. Yesterday in our example, it was definitely possible for somebody to be confused about which they would use, even if they did understand the meaning of each. So I think along with this, I'd just also like to mention that Google has a lot of amazing tools that can help you with English stuff. So if we could jump to my screen really quickly, one of the easiest things that you can do if you're ever curious about just the definition of a word is literally just to type it into Google. If it's anything more than a simple word, one of the first things that should probably come up is the definition, and then you can even broaden this thing down and get more information like translations, origin of the word, et cetera, et cetera. You can even see usage of the word. There's a graph down here that'll show usage of the word over time. So Google will check texts back to, I don't know when, maybe they go back even further than this, but they'll check text back over a certain time and see if that word that you're talking about existed in literature, or when it existed in literature, when it was being used. So let's just look briefly at and let me just, I'm gonna unexpand this really quickly. Let's just look briefly at the difference in definition between accept with an A and accept with an E. So accept with an A gives us two definitions here. We have consent to receive, so being okay with receiving something, or coming to believe something, coming to recognize something. Accept with an E, as defined by Google, the two major definitions are going to be, or the major definition really is going to be just not including, or not being included. And one of the reasons that these words sound so similarly, and this is the case not always with words that sound similarly, but it's worth looking into. Oftentimes words that sound similar or have a part of them that sounds similar have the same root. And I'm a fan of thinking about word roots because I think that if we learn basic word roots, we can often predict the meaning of words that we don't know. So again, one of the cool things that Google will do for us is it will give us etymologies. So an etymology is essentially the origin of the word. Etymology is the study of the origin of words. And so like if I took a word like dragon, right, I might want to know like where did that word come from? Why do we use the word dragon to describe, fantastical leathery beasts that breathe fire? In the case of accept, you can see from this chart that accept is a combination of it's a Latin word with a Latin prefix put on it. So ad, which means to, and as a prefix, and capere, which means take. And so asapere would have been the verb, or I think I think it's asapere, so how you'd say it, maybe oxapere, I'm not sure. But that would be to take something to oneself, and then you can see how that form of the word becomes acceptare, and then eventually accept in Middle English, and then it's been around. And again, earlier we saw on that chart that accept has been around, has been in significant usage since the 1800s. So again, this idea that what accept really means is it comes from the idea of to take, like to take something like an object or to take a belief onto yourself. Okay, and then if we look at accept, you'll notice that accept has the same core root, capere, but then it has the prefix out of, which is ex. And we can think of, and this is pretty obvious, right? Like we hear ex as meaning out of in lots of ways. Like you hear it in the word exit. You hear it in the word exoskeleton, which refers to a skeleton on the outside, like insects have on the outside of an organism's body. And in the same way, this becomes a Latin verb, essepere, and then it becomes accept in late Middle English. And so you can see that what we're talking about here is two opposite forms of taking, like taking something out of or taking it to yourself. Those are sort of the crude ways to describe that difference. So let's just look at a few quick examples to get this difference. I put the definitions up at the top of the paper here. So again, accept being, and I'll just highlight this guy in, let's say yellow because it's pretty. And then I'll put accept with an E in bleu. So accept in yellow there with an A, again, is to consent to receive or to come to believe or recognize. Accept with an E is to not include. So we could think like in this sentence right here, I was blank to see you Boulder, right? Does it make more sense to say that I would be saying I it was consented that I was received to CU Boulder, or I was not included in CU Boulder, right? And so in this case, and this is kind of obvious because we talk about this a lot with college admissions, but we would say I was accepted to CU Boulder. Another sentence I might use, I might say everyone I was close with went to CU Boulder, blank for Tom who went to DU. And in this case, I'm saying I'm not including Tom in the people that went to CU Boulder with me, so I would say except for Tom. And I'll just bold these two guys for us really quickly so that we can see that difference. Oh, cool. And then I thought I would just, let's look at that other definition of accept, right? Like accept also means to come to believe something over time. So we might hear a sentence like, after much discussion, he finally accepted with an A that I was right. Because again, that would be to come to believe something, not to exclude something or to not include something. And then down here, I was going to include the sort of not often used but acceptable usage of accept as a verb. So we'll often hear something like a person was accepted from something with an E, as in they weren't included in it. So I came up with this sentence where I could say, I was accepted from the exam because of the high score I got on my essay, meaning I wasn't included. I didn't have to take the exam because of the high score I got on my essay. That last usage right there is definitely going to be probably one of the rarer usages or one of the least used compared to the ones we've seen here, but it's totally acceptable. And there I go using accept. So again, sort of like those words yesterday, accept and accept. I think I can say accept to try to have the word with an A, or accept to try to emphasize that E. But ultimately, we say these two words identically. There's really no difference in a normal person's functional usage of accept and accept from a pronunciation standpoint. We just need to be on top of understanding the meaning behind these words. As long as we know what accept with an A means and accept with an E means, it should be very easy for us to find the placement for them. So perhaps if you're just being confused, if you just can't remember which is which, this would be a moment when thinking about those Latin roots, like ex being exit, being out of, those Latin roots in these kinds of situations can really be helpful.
Which is which?
Which is which? We may never know, honestly.
All right, let's switch gears back to math. Derek, do we have anything?
We sure do. We got a question here that says the solid brick shown is made of small bricks of side 1. When the large brick is disassembled into its component small bricks, the total surface area of all the small bricks is how much greater than the surface area of the large brick?
Oh boy.
Sounds like an algebra problem. You want to take that one?
Oh no, thanks.
This is definitely geometry, and so what we're kind of thinking about is we have a brick, and like we just mentioned, that brick is made up of a bunch of little cubes, right, kind of put together. So we want to think about what the surface area is of that brick, and consider that, you know, part of the cubes are not part of the surface, and it'll make more sense when I kind of draw this out. But think about, when we talk about surface area, what we're talking about is, imagine you were to paint the outside of this brick. Right? You wouldn't paint everything inside of it. You would just paint, like for example, this shape, and you have a top and bottom of this, and you would paint the wall. Just think about, like, nothing inside is getting painted. You can't actually even reach it. So kind of what we have here when we talk about the surface area of this, what actually is a rectangular prism, we have really 6 shapes that make it up. We have the top and the bottom, and I'm going to sketch these separately. So you notice the top and the bottom are both the exact same dimensions, right? Because it looks like it's kind of, oh, that's not very good. It's kind of shared throughout the figure. And so I've got, it's kind of cut in half, and then it's cut into 3 pieces, or three other lengths. This is not really working out that well with these straight lines, but I'm going to keep on trying it anyways. Okay, so this is kind of what the top looks like if you just look at the 2-dimensional view of it. And what we're also told is it's made of small bricks of side 1. When we say that, what we mean is each one of these, so like this length right here is 1, this length right here is 1, and these are all identical squares in here. So think about like we have this on top. We also have the exact same identical thing on the bottom. So we got 2 of those. It actually looks like on the side, this is the exact same as well. So I should change this. We don't have 2 of these. We have 4 of them. And then we have 2 of these shapes right here. Let me do a different color. Right, and again, when we talk about surface area, we're really only talking about that 2-dimensional kind of flat piece of it. So this is a bit of a different size. This is more of a 2 by 2. These are clearly not to scale, but something like that. And then I'm going to cut it in half. And we're still saying the sides are of length 1, and we have 2 of these, right? So again, try to imagine if you were to put all these together, they should be able to form this shape on the outside. So these are all made of side 1. So think about like across here, right? We have 3 across. We have 2 down. So if I want to find the area of just one of these shapes, surface area, keep in mind, we would do the length 3 times the width of 2. We end up getting 6. But then we need to remember that we have 4 of these sides. So if one side has a surface area of 6, then 4 sides has a surface area of 6 times 4, or 24. So that is the surface area of kind of that 2 by 3 shape that makes up 4 sides of this 3-dimensional object. And then we come down here. Again, we kind of notice that these come from this side and the other side that you can't see. And these are going to be 2 by 2, because again, each one of these are a length of 1, which is going to give us 4. We have 2 of them, so a total of 8. And then if we want to find surface area, we're literally just adding them together. We get 24 plus 8. We have a surface area of 32. It just says side 1, so I'm just going to call it 32 units squared. But that's not what we're actually looking for. We want to know what would happen if I were to take this apart and make just a bunch of small cubes. And so think about like a Rubik's Cube. Have either of you ever cheated and peeled off all the stickers on a Rubik's Cube to solve it?
No,
Sam?
I'm
probably
not a cheater. Like
Have I ever
You ever
pulled the cubes off?
Peeled the stickers off a Rubik's Cube?
No, because
so
you can
solve
actually
it?
yank the cubes themselves off of the center like spine. Just
Awesome.
click them back into place. That's how I
good
cheat.
to know.
You guys are such cheaters.
Wait, can you actually pull the 3-dimensional cube
The
out?
3-dimensional cube, so it's like
Give me a better example.
especially in older ones, you can pull it out.
You could have solved it so much faster.
Yeah, it's quick. It's quick.
Oh, you
And
guys
it's probably
are
not
such
as obvious that
cheaters.
you peeled stickers off.
And then nobody can tell that you're such a cheater.
Yeah, but anyway,
Fool all
so
your friends.
when Sam is pulling his Rubik's Cube apart,
So never
cheating with
believe
the
them
Rubik's
if they
Cube,
say they solved it.
yeah, he's actually pulling out a bunch of little cubes, if you can imagine what that looks like. And if you can't, just kind of think of this figure, right? Like this is a little cube. It's a 1 by 1 cube, 1 by 1 by 1 cube. So think about this right here is really kind of, let me see if I can sketch this. This 3-dimensional cube here, right? And now when we look at this, we actually have 6 sides on this cube, right? So what we're saying is if I were to pull all these cubes out, like Sam did with his Rubik's Cube, how much surface area do all these cubes combined have? Well, if I take a look at this one, this is a 1 by 1, right, on each side, and they're all the same size. So each face, we have 6 of them, so we basically have 6 little squares that are 1 by 1. So we have 1 times 1 is the surface area of each one, and then times 6. So each cube has a surface area of 6. And then if you kind of count, we have 3 stacked across twice. So we actually have 3 times 2 times 2 cubed. We have a total of 12 cubes. And each cube has a surface area of 6. So 12 times 6 is 72. So if we look at the solid brick, it has a surface area of 32 units. But if we pull them out, we have a surface area of 72. And again, keep in mind that when I look at this this cube, the reason why we have more when we pull them out separately is because you can't actually get to, you kind of notice there's a little box in here, right? But it's covered up, right? So you can't actually see it. It's not part of the surface area. And again, think about if you were painting all of that, you wouldn't paint inside. So hopefully that helps. It's kind of hard to see with these three-dimensional objects, but if you have a Rubik's Cube and you haven't been able to solve it, think about this problem. Think about Sam's solution to the Rubik's Cube, pull it apart, and think about, did they put stickers on the inside of the Rubik's Cube? No, because you can't see it, right?
Right.
Same idea.
Makes sense, except for I
Hopefully that
don't
helps.
condone the cheating. I just,
Well, it's
Look,
not cheating. It's saying,
13-year-old
can you-
me just like wasn't getting anywhere, and I had to do something.
And it says solve the Rubik's Cube. It doesn't say that you have to,
Yeah, it's like how to solve the Rubik's Cube.
whatever.
Rubik's Cubes are cool though, so
They are.
you should try to figure them out for real.
guys, oh well. All right, well, we're going to take a little break, and when we come back, we will be hearing from Theresa Pena from DPS and making French toast. Are we making it?
Learning how to make,
We're showing how to make French toast.
so we don't get French toast.
Oh, okay. But still, it's going to be exciting. We'll see you soon.
Cool students. Oh, we're back. Sorry about that. So we're back here with Theresa Pena from DPS Foods, and she's going to show us how to make some French toast.
So last time I got to talk to you all about the Food Nutrition Services breakfast and lunch program. And so today I wanted to share one of the items that we do almost all from scratch. It's baked French toast. And what's really great about this is that when we serve hot meals in our schools, particularly breakfast, it's such a great way to start the day. So I have the recipe here today. We actually start with baking our own bread. So in our bread, we use yeast, salt, dry milk, flour, water, and a little bit of honey, so you'll find that it's really tasty. And our students love all of our made from scratch bread products. We do rolls. Tomorrow we're going to have meatloaf and a biscuit. But for the baked French toast, we start with a loaf of bread that's with all those ingredients I just shared, and then we add some other ingredients to it. So the other thing I think I shared last time is that every single new employee that starts with us actually goes through a scratch cooking class. So just last week, we started the 3-week programming. So we offer it 3 times during the course of the year. They learn how to do baking, they learn how to do food prep, safety handling, vegetable for our fresh fruit and produce bars, meat handling. So all the tips that really make our scratch cooking something that's really robust. And there was just a new article that came out in the Atlantic, and there's actually a link that talks about nutritious school meals and successful academic achievement. So we know, as we talked about last time, that it's not just good and healthy and tasty for kids, but it actually has a really important link. So back to the baked French toast. We bake our bread. We then slice it and lay it flat in a pan. And then we melt butter. So we have some butter here. We have cinnamon and brown sugar. And the great thing about the butter, cinnamon, brown sugar is when you bake that on top of the bread, it creates a natural syrup. So this is all, again, meeting the USDA nutritional guidelines. This is a favorite for our students because it's a little bit sweeter than some of our items. And so that's a real positive. So for the covering on top of the bread, so we would bake the bread the day before. That morning, we would get to our kitchens. We would lay it out in our pan. We would put the toppings on it: butter, cinnamon, brown sugar, eggs, and milk, and then we bake it. So we actually have recipes for all of our schools, and it's a standard recipe. You'd be a little bit surprised how the 4 of us might follow a recipe and we might have a different outcome, not as good as this baked French toast looks here. So that's one of the challenges, is kind of the quality and consistency, because we really want every child to not just have really good food, but for it to look good. Because we know one of the first things students do when they walk through the cafeteria is they look at the appearance of the food and they eat with their eyes. So if they see something that looks really great and lovely like this, they're a lot more likely to try it, even if they haven't had it before. So the baked French toast is a new item for us on the breakfast program this year. We like to try different recipes. We'll do sampling with students. We'll do surveys with students. We solicit recipes from our families and students. Still haven't gotten one, hoping that maybe somebody in the audience will send us one. But we really are trying to make sure that there's a lot of variety and a lot of choice. and that it connects with the nutritionals. So we have several registered dietitians on our staff. So they will look at the recipes and make sure that they meet the USDA nutritional guidelines. And then we serve it for breakfast. On our breakfast menu, it alternates for the breakfast that's served in the cafeteria. That menu is on a 4-week cycle. So you might see different choices every day of the month. Same thing just like for our school lunches. If we do breakfast in the classroom, that's a different menu cycle. There's less scratch cooked items because we're serving breakfast in our classrooms. And the really great thing about doing breakfast in the classroom is that all students have the chance to eat. They don't have to get there before the tardy bell. They actually eat as part of the ritual and routine during the school day. So after the tardy bell rings, we're serving breakfast in many of our classrooms. Of the 135 schools in DPS, we have over 200, but there's 135 schools in DPS that do what we call breakfast after the bell. So it's a Colorado law that said schools that have 70% free and reduced lunch students or higher have to make a breakfast delivery available after the bell. The breakfast in the classroom is honestly one of my favorites because all students have the opportunity to eat. The downside is we don't get as much scratch cooking and there's not as much variety, but it's still very healthy. It's a great way to start the day. You all are teachers. You know that if a child is coming to school and hasn't had a really good nutritional breakfast, they're not going to be very kind of sit and get and do the learning and the, like I just watch your homework problems and those are challenging. And if students are putting bad food in their bodies, and certainly I'm sure many of you have seen some of the things that our students eat. They like hot Cheetos, they like those Monster drinks. Those aren't the best things to put in your body and then go to a chemistry class or you're in your second grade science class. So this is really important to have the kind of healthy and nutritious foods that we have.
Yeah, that is so true. I was just going to say, you know, I want my school's one of the schools that has breakfast after the bell. So we do it at like 9 o'clock. There's a break. All the students get to come out and eat. And it's really, really cool because it's sort of a social moment. And a bunch of the students, like if they don't get food early in the day, that's the main thing that they're thinking about. And classes get sidetracked in anything we're trying to do because there will literally be some of our students that will run around the school looking for food, asking teachers for food. And I've seen that really mitigated by the breakfast in school program. It's been great.
Not to mention the risk of hanger.
Right.
If you don't eat, and
we
you
don't
want
want
to be.
any hangry students,
Don't
right?
need any hangry students.
I want happy students, not
That's
hangry
right.
students.
So, so we're really motivated to continue to work with our schools. It's not a one-size-fits-all. Every school has different needs for the breakfast delivery. But where we get to make breakfast, whether it's serving it in the cafeteria or in the classroom, we're serving large numbers of students. So for example, this recipe that I'm kind of following today, we just made a pan with 12. But for most of our schools, we'd be making several pans, and it's 96 servings. So if you just think about that, we do 40,000 breakfast meals every day in DPS. So when we're cooking from scratch, we're making several pans like this to ensure that our students have the options and the choices that we publish on our menu. And that's something that we take very seriously. We have a published menu for both breakfast and lunch. We also have a breakfast in the classroom menu, so families and students could take a look at it and they get to decide, oh, I like, you know, these particular items, or I don't particularly care for that meal. But really, I think kind of breaking bread, pun intended, is a real opportunity when particularly to start your day in school. It really makes a big difference, I think, to have that kind of social opportunity to get good nutrition and to do this as part of whether you're doing math minutes or whether you're doing reading or whether you're doing a writing assignment. We have had some of our secondary schools who do breakfast in the classroom. But I would say it's more of an elementary opportunity. So at the high school level, the secondary level, both middle and high school, we're always looking for different options because we know that our secondary students like choice. They like hot. We're looking for more protein opportunities. This has a little bit of protein in it because it has the eggs in it, but it's actually, protein is not a requirement for the USDA. It's, there's not even a sugar limitation, although we as a school district have decided to limit the amount of sugar that we have in our individual items to less than 10 grams, quite honestly, per single item. So in the morning, a student would take a main entree. They would have the option of taking milk, and in the morning we only serve 1% milk or non-fat milk, white milk. At lunch, students have the opportunity to have flavored skim chocolate milk or flavored strawberry flavored skim milk. And so I think chocolate milk is probably our most popular item at lunch. We don't make those flavored milks available in the morning. But in the morning, they would take an entree. They would have the choice of milk. We always serve a piece of fruit. And we also make a juice box available. So that's a USDA requirement that we have to have a cup of fruit available. The way we do it to balance our budget and to make things interesting for our students is to serve a juice box and fruit. We're looking at that. We've gotten lots of feedback from both our students and parents that sometimes the juice box, well, it's no added sugar. They would rather have just a fresh piece of fruit for our students. And so we're mindful of the amount of sugar, particularly in the morning to start the day off. And we've kind of made the trade-off that healthy, nutritious calories in the body actually address the hangriness, or if students haven't had a good meal, then they're not really sitting and paying attention to their teachers. So all those things kind of go into what we're doing. But I would say, we talked last time about kind of food baked with love. I think when you look at something like this, it looks like something that a parent might make at home, a guardian might make for our students. And we're really trying to partner with our parents because we know that the morning rush could be hectic and not everybody has a chance to have hot, warm, good nutritious items. And honestly, for me, when I was raising my children, it was hard to kind of be innovative and keep thinking of new things to serve to my kids. And so like Cheerios in a bowl was always easy to put in front of them, or an egg. They got tired of that. So I think it's really nice to be able to partner with our parents and say, we have lots of choices. They're healthy, good, and nutritious. They're made with love, just like you are doing in your home. We try and do our best to be an extension of the kitchens that our kids come from.
That's really great.
Yeah.
You know, I just wanted to ask that. I think it's so cool that there's no, well, it's not a good thing that there's no sugar limitation on the national level, but I love that DPS has instituted that. Will we institute anything else like protein requirements or certain kinds of fat requirements going forward? Do you know anything about that?
So the federal requirements are limit sodium, they limit fat. So there's limitations on saturated fat, trans fat. I think trans fat is 0 grams right now.
Oh, that's good.
There's limitations. We have whole grain requirements. So the bread that we're making is actually made with whole grain flour, not white flour. So it's a better nutrient for our students. No sugar requirements, no protein requirements. And protein costs a little bit more, and so as we're thinking of our grocery list as well as our grocery budget, we're pretty mindful, quite honestly, of trying to get more protein out there. The USDA will basically give us requirements about how many carbs, how many calories, and it's by elementary, middle, and high school. I was meeting with a group of parents last night, and one of their questions was, well, you know, the portions seem rather small, and if you have a young lady or a young man who are in high school, they're growing, they're playing a sport, the serving sizes that we have don't feel like it's enough. So we're working with our after-school clubs and athletics to determine, like, could we provide a sack lunch that has some healthy options for them with maybe some protein, maybe some good carbs, you know, milk, that's always a good thing to have for athletes. So kind of that's where we are with the requirements. I think DPS uses the USDA requirements as the floor, not the ceiling, and so like we start with those and try and improve upon those. We have 3 registered dietitians on staff, and so they're always looking at different things and taking in feedback from our parents and students and staff. At the end of the day, my favorite thing to tell everybody is the best meal we could provide students is one that kids will eat. So that's always a challenge.
So can we see how you make it? Is it hard to make, or is it pretty straightforward?
So the bread, I would say, you know, we kind of have that done because we do that in advance. And so we have here the butter that we would start off with. So we would melt this butter in a pan, and once that's melted, we would combine sugar. We have brown sugar here. Sometimes we use honey or applesauce in place of sugar. For this particular recipe, we're using brown sugar, cinnamon, so trying to use spices that don't add sodium, that don't add more sugar, but like additional extra opportunity to make it tasty and interesting. So we add some brown sugar. We have some milk. So I'm going to use our 1% milk here. And then we have an egg.
Do you mind if we pull this over just so we can get in the camera a little bit?
Oh, you're fine.
Okay,
Go
all right,
right
I'm a
ahead.
little bit worried here.
I trust you.
And so we have all the food safety procedures. All of our people go through that training. I'm actually in a violation right now because I don't have my hair pulled back. I don't have a cap on. I am wearing gloves, so you know we are mindful of all of those things. to ensure that the food our kids eat is not just tasty and nutritious, but is also
And they don't find your hair.
exactly. We don't want
course.
them to find the hair. So
And I saw you crack the egg on the table. I know that's
yeah, that would not be legal.
No, actually,
yeah.
I've heard that's safer than they have people that crack it on the side of the bowl. Apparently, that's bad.
Why is that
Because
bad?
salmonella can exist on the outside of the egg.
Oh, interesting.
You can actually put salmonella in contact with the bowl. So professional chefs crack it on the table or the counter and then flip it in. I was told that by a friend of mine that just went through.
I'm going to ask our food safety
Yeah, see
people
what they
that.
do.
Yeah.
See what they do.
Yeah.
So we kind of sprinkle this all together, mix it all up, and then we would have, I have a finished pan here, but we would have our pan, we would lay out our slices of bread, and then we would just layer it. So it's not just one layer, it's actually, I think it calls for 3 layers that we would put on it.
Oh, wow.
And
so
then-
there are 3 layers of bread for
Yes.
each.
And
Yes.
you put the butter, egg, milk mixture on each
Exactly,
layer.
that's right. And so
Cool.
then we would put that up there. And then at the very end, we would sprinkle a little bit more butter and the brown sugar on top to give it a nice kind of crispy, crumbly topping on it. And then we bake it. We bake it for 30 minutes. So this is something that we can do in the morning, particularly for our elementary and middle schools because they have a little bit later start. The high schools, depending on when usually our high schools start around 7:30. So we could do this in our high schools. And we have a standard menu. So in the past, we've had different menus for elementary, middle, and high school. This year, we went to a single menu just to make it easier for families. And again, we're always looking at how our decisions affect consumption because we want to feed all of our students in DPS. So if we make a change and then we see our participation rates drop, we go back and reevaluate that.
So this looks like a really easy recipe that people can make at home.
Yes.
Just want to say thanks again for coming on the show again and showing us a little bit about what
Yeah,
they
this was really cool. Thank you,
they
Teresa.
do
really
at
does look
DPS
delicious.
Foods. So
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks.
thank you
So-
so much.
we're going to go back to commercial and we'll come back and answer some more of your homework questions.
Hi, welcome back. I was just kidding, not kidding, I don't know.
Mid-bite?
Yeah, mid-bite. We're just enjoying here the French toast that Theresa left us. So thank you, Theresa.
Is really good.
This is delicious, by the way. I'm very excited that this is what our students get to enjoy.
Yeah, I got to admit, we've had some great guests this season. We got to play with tarantula, tamandua. We get food provided. once
This
or
is
twice.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh, the tomato is still my favorite. Well, maybe I liked having a bunch of worm poop on my desk. I like
Oh,
that
right,
a
the
lot.
worms.
I missed
yeah.
that one.
Oh, that's
missed
your
that
loss,
one.
Becca.
You
That
did,
is
yeah.
your loss.
Oh, darn. Missed the worm poop. All right, I think I'm okay with that. But we do have some great guests on the show. So keep that in mind for our future shows. All right, so let's go get back to what we really do for the most part is answer your homework questions.
Yeah.
So go for it. Derek, do we have any?
Yeah, let me pull it up for you real quick. It's,
While you do that, I'm going to eat some French toast.
You do that.
That's okay, Becca. You go ahead. This one's mine anyways.
Yeah, so
good.
we got a science question that says, why do we dream?
I like this one.
So, we don't know. We don't know why we dream.
Can you answer this question?
No,
Really?
I'm just kidding.
I thought-
I will say a little bit more on that. But listen. So let's even go back a step. We don't.
I don't know.
Scientists are not in agreement and do not even have a really good, solid, one accepted theory for why we sleep. Yeah, it is even kind of confusing. Why do we sleep? Why do we spend literally a third or even more of our lives conked out?
I think we sleep so we can take a break from teaching.
That is true. I just
to work.
sleep to escape my waking nightmare. That makes me. No, I'm just kidding. There are some really interesting theories, and I think some good ones. And so what I wanted to do is maybe just talk for a minute about sleep in general, and then if we can kind of get to an idea of what sleep is about, maybe we can push in and get an idea of what dreaming is about. But if sleep is not totally understood, dreaming is very, very much debated what it's about, what it means. The argument for why we sleep, there are a couple different theories of why we sleep. People will say things like, well, sleeping sort of allows us, our minds to clean house. There are analogies that are sometimes given like, you can throw a house party and you can clean up the house party, but you can't do both at once, right? So the notion goes that during your waking hours, you're doing a lot of things that your brain needs to be able to do to keep you alive during that time. But actually, your brain has lots of sort of housekeeping tasks that it might need to do, cleaning up certain neural pathways in your brain, checking in on memories. Then those things have to happen in a time of sleep. There's an argument made that sleeping is all about conserving energy, that humans, let's think about humans specifically here, because if we get into sleep of other animals, it gets kind of complicated. But other animals, of course, do sleep. One argument has been that creatures sleep when their prey is not available. So, as a way to conserve energy. So, during the day when I'm able to hunt, I don't know, an antelope or something, I'm chasing after the antelope, but then, the antelope goes to sleep and I go to sleep at night. And it's a way to conserve energy at a time when I'm not actively doing those things. There are major problems with that idea. That makes logical sense, I guess, if you think about it. But there are major problems with that, including the idea that there is really intense brain activity that can go on during sleep. If we could just jump to my screen really quickly. This shows 3 brain scans showing generalized brain activity. It's brain activity shown through electronic signals. And the way that it works is the cooler colors, the darker the colors are, the more purple or blue they are, that's less activity. And the more warm the color is, as you get into green, that's slightly more activity, yellow even more than that, and then of course red and orange being heightened levels of activity. So you can see in an awakened state, large portions of our brain are firing. In an initial asleep state, the brain goes very quiet. We then enter what's called non-REM sleep, where the brain starts to pick up an activity. But then I have this other image which shows the difference between non-REM sleep and REM sleep. So we were asked about dreams in this question. So one thing that scientists do know is they know that dreams take place during what's called REM sleep. REM stands for rapid eye movement. It refers to the way that a person's eye moves underneath their eyelid during that time of sleep. And to get into REM sleep, it's sort of interesting. As we fall asleep, we go through what sleep scientists call stages of sleep. And it's almost as though we go deeper and deeper into a sense of sleep, although fascinatingly, the deepest level of sleep, REM sleep, is the area where we have the most heightened brain activity. Also fascinating about REM sleep, during REM sleep, we have this really intense brain activity going on. And again, if you were to lift up a person's eyelid during REM sleep, you would see their eye rapidly moving back and forth, sort of vibrating. But in fact, the remainder of a person's body during REM sleep is paralyzed in something called atonia. And there are people that experience, there's a disorder where people will actually wake up and still be paralyzed in their bed. Their body still hasn't gained movement. So there are a lot of different theories and ideas for why we do sleep, but there isn't a good consensus about it. And it's something that's really worth debating. Pushing a little bit more into the area of dreams, and I'll just continue to talk about sleep in general and maybe its function. One of the major things that has recently been talked about is the idea that what sleep allows us to do is it's an opportunity for us to process our memories. There's a suggestion, not with a lot of evidence to back it up, but there's a suggestion that dreaming is really a moment for us to process things that went on during the day. That ultimately what you have going on is you have so much input during the day, just a million things are coming at you, and you are focused on the things that you're doing, but there's all kinds of inputs that you maybe didn't have an opportunity to think about or make connections between as you went through the day. And sleep, particularly dream sleep, REM sleep, the argument goes that is a time when that all the firing in the brain is about making those connections. And again, that it's hard for us to know exactly what the reason is, but what we do know is, and something that I wanted to mention here is kind of a cool idea, is that there is some good evidence now that one of the best ways to learn is to intensely focus on a task and then go to sleep. Because we have found that sleep allows us to sort of, for some reason, it allows us to sort of practice and go over whatever we focused on and learned during the day. There's a guy that came out with a book recently. I was just going to show this. His name's Josh Kaufman. I watched a video by him recently. I haven't read the book. His book is called The First 20 Hours, and I'm not trying to really make a plug for him, but he suggests that you can learn anything to a point of being good at it in 20 hours of focus and practice, which is great because you compare that to like the 10,000 hours that is sometimes talked about as what you need to master something. The idea in First 20 Hours is that one of the main concepts he talks about is focus on learning something and do it kind of close to bedtime or in the evening, and then go to sleep. There was a Notre Dame study that I just wanted to reference also. The title is Sleeping After Processing New Info. This is not the title of the study, this is just the title of the article, but it says, Sleeping After Processing New Info, Most Effective New Study Shows. So there are a lot of different pieces of evidence that are coming out showing us that, in fact, we need sleep to process what happens during the day, and in fact, dreams may play a role in that. But again, I've said all this stuff, and really, we are still unsure ultimately of the true things that sleep does for us and why we dream. And the cool part about that, let me just say, I think it can be a little bit dissatisfying to have somebody tell you, we don't know the answer to that. Science hasn't been able to answer that for us. But that's actually really exciting, and you should consider that science has been able to answer so many things, so many different questions for us. And so what's really most exciting is that there are still things that we're exploring and figuring out. And if you want to be a scientist, if you want to even just have a scientific mind, you could start thinking about problems like this.
That's cool. It's not all solved yet.
We haven't figured it all out yet. Maybe in a few years, but not yet.
That's why we need you guys.
That's right.
Okay, well, let's get you guys the trivia question one more time, just to give you a brief chance to answer that.
Actually, I think we're doing trivia question and answer.
Trivia question and answer.
No, you don't have time. You
briefest
guys are
amount.
out of time. Well, all right, what is it?
All right, so the question again was, how long did it take Leonardo da Vinci to paint the lips on Mona Lisa? And the answer is 10 years.
What?
That's just astounding.
Have either of you been to see the Mona Lisa?
I have.
I have.
It's shockingly small, right?
tiny
Yeah,
and
it's
so far away.
Yeah.
But you
It
know
is.
why it's so
and
far
there's always
away?
a crowd around it. Well, because didn't somebody like try to deface it at some point?
Somebody,
or
oh,
stole
I thought
it.
it was stabbed it, but it says in
was
1956, a vandal
stolen.
threw acid at the lower part of the painting.
Oh, that
Wow.
jerk.
I just remember thinking it was a lot bigger, and then I think I saw the painting last summer, and it's enormous. Or Last Supper.
Oh, Last Supper, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
that's
huge,
a
and the
really
Mona
large
Lisa's
one.
like this big.
It's very, very
Isn't that amazing?
small. Yeah,
And
it
the
is very small.
It inspires so much like emotion. The Mona Lisa actually has its own mailbox at the Louvre because people
Really?
send letters to the Mona Lisa.
To Mona Lisa.
I know it's a painting, right?
Oh, I just see it's
sure they
30
do.
by 21 inches.
Yeah. That's,
So that's really small. That's very,
It's like
very
a couple
small.
sheets of paper.
It really is.
Speaking of what you mentioned, Sam, this says that the Mona Lisa has broken a lot of hearts and inspired admiration as a string of suitors bearing flowers, poems, and impassioned notes climbed the grand staircase of the Louvre to gaze into her limpid and burning eyes.
Well,
Wow.
I
Jeez.
think this is interesting. So, talking about her smile, maybe what makes her most appealing. But so they have a lot of theories to why she's smiling. Some say she's secretly pregnant. Others say she's smiling at entertainers in the background. And then the most interesting one is that it's Leonardo himself, and he's cleverly disguised. So he's like, it's him, and he's just disguised as Mona Lisa.
Interesting.
But here's the other thing that's really cool is they used, researchers at the University of Amsterdam and University of Illinois, they used face recognition software to actually determine what her emotions were. So she is supposedly 83% happy, 9% disgusted, 6% fearful, and 2% angry.
That's fine. That's how I feel right now, actually.
Yeah. I think we're always 2% angry.
Yeah, I can
least.
totally
Like 5%
categorize my
angry, though.
emotions like that. That
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense, huh?
You know, it was stolen in 1911.
Stolen?
Stolen by an Italian handyman, and he kept it in his room, like his cheap room in Paris where he lived. And then, oh no, not in Paris, but then he took it to Paris to try to get a reward for returning it, and he was arrested. And he later said he was enchanted by the smile of Mona Lisa, and that's why he did
He
it.
just couldn't
What
help
can
it.
you do?
He
Yeah.
just
Incredible.
couldn't help it. Well, it is pretty amazing. You should go to see it if you do get a chance. All right, well, we have to say goodbye for spring break, so we'll be back in about after spring break, so week and a half, something like that. Catch us again, same time, same place, 4:30 to 5:30 p.m. live. We'll answer all of your questions then, and we'll see you then. Enjoy your spring break. Blah, 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 blah.